Welcome, Katie. Thank you.
Do you have a slide change? All right, so I'm just going to wing it. So welcome to Predictive Analytics for Marketers. As mentioned, I'm Katie Robbert. I know it's late in the day, but I appreciate you guys showing up to this session. A lot of what you've heard leading up to this talk should look familiar, and that's a great thing because the repetitiveness of the information is really going to help it make sense. And so what I'm going to do is a little bit more of a deep dive into practical applications of using predictive analytics in your marketing so that you can get started with it as early as today. So what you can't see on the next slide is that there's a URL called Will the Slides Be Available? This might look familiar. You're probably saying, hey, Chris Penn did this morning. So fun fact, Chris Penn's my business partner. So his URL is slightly different from mine. What you'll get at this URL is the audio, video, and slide deck. So everything all in one package so you can listen to my bad jokes over and over again. At your leisure, I won't judge. So, again, as you saw this morning, in the latest CMO survey, I'm sorry, is there a clicker?
There should be.
We're looking for it.
I think the first speaker might have taken it.
Okay.
I can run the slides for you.
Okay, so it's a good thing I have this memorized. Last talk of the day, guys.
This is, yeah, we'll get through this. This is great.
In the latest CMO surveys, as you saw this morning, CMOs are saying the top uses of AI in marketing by economic sector are going to be content personalization and predictive analytics for customer insights, which is really great news for marketers because content personalization is exactly where you want to be with your audience. And so in that same survey, as you saw this morning, the amount of data being used is going up. So it topped out at 43.5%. So that is unfortunately less than half. So as Chris mentioned this morning in his talk, 56.5% of marketers are still making decisions without data. What are the consequences of that? Do you find yourselves in the 43.5% or the 56.5%? So the problems that you may be facing right now are creating plans with no measurement strategy, client demands with no clear path to success, and feeling like you're constantly behind instead of ahead. I know, as working formerly at agency side, that these were the problems that I faced on a daily basis. And actually, one of the clients that I used to work with, who shall remain nameless, a very large UK weight loss company wanted to bring their services into the American market. As you know, the American market is pretty saturated with weight loss products and programs and services. And so they wouldn't use data to make their decisions. They were spending at least 6 figures a month just on Facebook ads alone. And the amount of money that was being wasted, it was gut-wrenching. And so we were giving them week over week, month over month, data, predictive analytics to say, this is what you should be spending and when. And lo and behold, surprise, nothing happened because they wouldn't use the data. And so they didn't get the conversions, they didn't get the brand awareness, they didn't get the digital footprint that they wanted. And so what happens? Well, it's all the things I just mentioned. You have unhappy clients, you have a loss of a digital footprint, you lose revenue, and you have employee turnover, all because people are unwilling to use data to make decisions, which is an easily solvable problem. So what are we going to do today? We're going to get a better understanding of predictive analytics, including the formula used to power time series predictive. We're going to go over 5 use cases, practical applications, and ideas for using predictive, and we're going to try to ditch the "this is how we've always done it" mantra, which is honestly a strategy killer from the start. So what is predictive analytics? Well, as you heard throughout the day, it's math, it's statistics, it's probability. Predictive analytics has been around for as long as humans have been around. You're probably familiar with Nostradamus, who's been trying to predict the end of the world forever. I think we've lived through about 12 ends of the worlds or so by now. It wasn't totally accurate. A better example is the Farmer's Almanac. So the Farmer's Almanac, if you're unfamiliar, is an agricultural document that helps predict weather and soil types and times to plant, which for a long time was the only way that we as humans could survive. So they had to have some sort of predictive understanding of when they should be planting things in order to be the most successful. And even today, how many people check the weather, check the traffic, check their horoscope before they leave the house? Because we as humans, we don't like to be surprised. We want to know what's going to happen. So if we're doing this much for ourselves, why can't we do the same thing for where we're spending our money? Predictive analytics is a type of machine learning. So this is a really ugly slide, but it was the best way that I could think to really describe it. And we're not going to focus too long on this, but predictive analytics falls under this supervised continuous type of machine learning. It's I know what I want and I have the quantitative data. The other three kinds are unsupervised continuous, which is I know what I want and I don't know what I want, but I have quantitative data. Supervised categorical, which is I know what I want and I have the qualitative data. And unsupervised categorical, which is I don't know what I want, but I have some qualitative data. So again, we're going to focus on the supervised continuous part of machine learning, which is where prediction falls. So making decisions with data hasn't always been easy, and typically every company, every team kind of goes through this progression of using data and predictive analytics. So usually people start with pure guessing, and they find out pretty quickly that that doesn't work. So that's probably the worst place to start, but it's very common. And then, as I mentioned, this is the way we've always done it. So what ends up happening is marketers will try to replicate the success of campaigns that they've previously done without taking into account other factors such as, is it the same audience, is it the same message, the same service offering, or even the same time of year. So that's okay, but not great. And then you move on to basic charts that point up and down. So you have your data, and it's either moving up and to the right or down and to the right. So that's some kind of indicator that things are working or not working. The problem with that is that it's only historical data. It doesn't tell you really what to do next. So then you can incorporate things such as moving averages, which can get you a little bit closer to what to do next, and math is good. But what we're really going to focus on is the true nature of time series predictive analytics, which is the ARIMA model. So now, this is the formula for the ARIMA model. Fun fact, I haven't taken math since 11th grade in high school, so I cannot calculate this. You don't need to either, but you need to have an understanding of what it does in order to use it. So as we mentioned quite a few times today, you don't have to be a data scientist to use AI, you just need to understand what it does. So ARIMA is the autoregressive, integrated moving averages, and the S is seasonality. So Paul actually set me up really nicely this morning when he started giving the Google Maps example of predictive analytics. So we're going to use the same type of example. So this is a map of Boston. If you've ever been to Boston, you know that nothing is in a straight line, so you can only take the information that Google Maps gives you with a grain of salt. And so in this example, let's say we're going from point A to point B, and on average, using historical information from millions of other people who have taken that same ride, Google Maps is saying it's going to take you about 15 minutes to get where you want to go. That's the averages part of the ARIMA model. Then you want to factor in the moving part, and that's your speed limit. So on average, the speed limit on the highway is 65, but if you're taking back roads, it might be 30 or 40, or if you're my mother, you have a lead foot, and speed limits don't apply to you. So you're going to get there in 5 minutes anyway. So then the next part of the formula is the autoregressive. And so that's taking into account traffic accidents, construction, ducks crossing the street, or if you live in my neighborhood, turkeys who just stand there and won't move. And so that totally messes up the amount of time that it's going to take you. So Google Maps is constantly trying to incorporate this new data as you're driving. So what started as a 15-minute ride, then with the speed limits, maybe went to 30 minutes, and then with traffic, maybe went to 40 minutes. And then you have the integrated part, whereas the accident cleared. So Google Maps and the AI within it is trying to incorporate that information to say, okay, I have new information, and now I want to say, this is now your adjusted average, like expected outcome. But then, one more, you live in New England, and weather is always a factor. I know it's not unique to New England, but you always have snow and rain and sleet and hail and those sunspots when you're driving over the highway at that one point every day and you can't see anything. And that's where the seasonality comes in. In marketing, this might be your what time of year is it, what holidays, what fiscal years are ending, January to December, July to June. It might be back to school shopping. It always depends, and it's always going to be unique to you and your audience. So that's why an ARIMA model is what powers the time series forecasting that we're going to focus on with the examples today. There are two types of predictive analysis that marketers use. Time series, as we mentioned, which is machine learning, and then the other kind is driver analysis, which is more deep learning, which we're not going to focus on as much today. But deep learning in this instance, is essentially taking a cluster of numbers. So for example, if you've ever exported the report from Facebook, which comes out in like 14 different pages and tabs and the data's all over the place, using a driver analysis can help you understand better what variables and numbers are the most important to focus on based on your goals. But we are going to get back to talking about time series analysis and how to get started with it in your marketing practice. So before you can do anything, you need to have some data, right? Because you can't analyze nothing. So there are 6 C's of data quality, and any data set, whether you're running a predictive model or any other type of analysis, you should be able to check the box on these 6 C's. So the first C is clean data. It needs to be prepared well and free of errors. You need to have complete data, which is no missing information. You need to have comprehensive data. So your data set must answer the question being asked. So you don't want to answer a question about Twitter by looking at Facebook data. It needs to be chosen, so no irrelevant or confusing data within the data set. It needs to be credible, so collected in a consistent way that you can point back to the methodology and say, okay, I know from start to finish how this data was collected and that it was done on a consistent manner. And then lastly, and most importantly, it needs to be calculable. So having the first 5 C's is great, but if you can't actually use the data, then it's all for naught. So you have the data. Next, you need a plan. So this is the very rough, and you can use your own project plan, your own process, but first and foremost, what's the project? What is the question you're trying to answer? What's the strategy, the goal, the desired outcome? What's the problem you're trying to solve? All too often, I see companies say, I'm going to use AI, I'm going to run a predictive forecast, I don't know what question I'm trying to answer. So they just have this great output, but it doesn't really relate to anything. So always start with, what's the question you're trying to answer? Next, you pull the data. Sounds straightforward. Extract the data from where it lives. If you don't have your own proprietary data, and that could be Google Analytics, your CRM data, your sales data, your financial data, your marketing automation data, email marketing data, all of those things are really great for predictive analytics. But if you don't have that available, if you can't access it, or if you don't trust that it's good quality data, there are really great third-party data sources such as Google Trends, which is something that we're very fond of at Trust Insights. Google Trends is a really great untapped, underutilized source for marketers. You can use data.gov, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Statista. There's a lot of different options if you don't have your own data set. Next, you take the data, you prepare it. Sounds pretty straightforward. The thing in here that I want to mention is something called feature engineering. So feature engineering is creating additional variables within your data set. So let's say you have weeks within the year, but you actually want to know what specific day. So you would create additional variables to start to drill down into your data to figure out what actual day of the week is the thing occurring. So then you need to pick the variable in which you want to predict. So yes, you can run multiple time series analysis, but you need to focus on probably one thing at a time, especially if you're just starting out and you want to have measurable outcomes. And then you create your prediction, and then you build a plan of action for the forecast. Okay, so we have gotten through all of the really boring admin stuff, and we are going to get through what you came for, which is the use cases. So there are 5 use cases of time series that I'm going to go over, and they're all very common, and they're very easy to get started with. So you have SEO, social media advertising, shopping trends, and YouTube. The nice thing about a time series forecast is that you can run it once and use it 5 different ways. So think about the cost savings, the scalability, the resource time. These are all things you can do with one analysis, and I'm going to show you how. So once you do your keyword planning and you figure out what keywords you want to be known for, or the keywords that your competitors are known for that you want to know, you run it through your SREMA model, and you get this lovely chart with a whole bunch of numbers on it. Okay. So what you do with this information is, so this is actually the information that we use at Trust Insights. These are the keywords that we want to be known for. So the first thing we do is our SEO optimization and our content marketing. So what you can see is that Google Data Studio is going to peak in search, is likely to peak in search starting in September. So what we would do is we would optimize our existing content, and then we would create new content if we have gaps. So we want to make sure that we have content around what is, how do I, where do I, how do I get started? Make sure all of those buckets are checked, and then we SEO optimize that. So that's our SEO and content marketing using AI and predictive analytics. So then, we figure out, using this exact same chart, when to post it on social media. It's great to have a bunch of content, but as we know, social media algorithms are changing constantly, and it's harder and harder to have our content show up. So having the right time to find when people care about a specific topic is really crucial. So you've created the content, you've SEO optimized the content, and now you can organically post it at the right time when people care about it. So then you move on to the next phase, which is advertising spend. So you've created it, you've posted it, now you want to boost it. If we go back to that example of the UK client who wasn't taking our advice, this was the exact type of information we were giving them based on the keywords and topics that their audience cared about related to weight loss, such as paleo and other different diet types and tips and tricks and all the great things. But they weren't using this information. So what was happening is that they had probably 60 different campaigns that were running at any given time, and the money was just spread evenly across, and the results were terrible. So in this instance, what you would do instead is you would put your money behind the things that people care about, such as Google Data Studio, what is data science, and you would tune back things such as BI meaning and BI definition, because people don't care about it right now. It's not the right time for that content. It will come back around at some point. So then the next use case is your shopping trends. So this is when people are looking for things to buy, and so you can use Google Trends shopping data. It's not as robust as the search data, so I would definitely say proceed with caution. It depends on what it is that you have for sale, but you can use the search intent data to figure out your shopping trends. And so this might be something around creating content that helps explain what the product is, what you can do with it. So we actually have a predictive forecast on our website called the Cheese Belief, where we put in about 100 different kinds of cheeses to figure out when people were going to be looking for those throughout the year. If we ran a cheese shop or had an online cheese shopping business, then we would want to create content around here's how to store it, here's what to do with it, here's some recipes around it, all related to when people are shopping for those particular kinds of cheeses, because they just might not know what to do with it. And then the last example is YouTube. So this chart is a little bit different, but we wanted to make sure that we showed a very real-time example. So these are actually all of the topics being spoken about at MAICON these next couple of days on YouTube. So YouTube is its own search engine. It's part of the Google family, but you still want to treat it as its own search engine and optimize your video content the same way you would any other kind of content. And if you want some more information about that, we have some great resources on our website about how to best optimize your YouTube content. But what you can see is that artificial intelligence and marketing, unsurprisingly at the Marketing and Artificial Intelligence Conference, are the things that people are looking for most on YouTube. So if you have video content from this conference, make sure you optimize it, make sure you post it, make sure people can easily find it. So those are the 5 most common use cases for using predictive analytics to get started today in your marketing. So we're just going to go through a couple of quick, not going to just yet. You can break it down a little bit more simply to the 4P framework. So if you want to hand over one of those big calendars to like your managers or your team members, you can break it down more easily into a 4-week plan, which is the plan, prep, publish, and promote. So in this example, let's say that you wanted to create content around program marketing. So 4 weeks out, you would plan. You would do your audit of your existing content, and then you would start to SEO optimize that and figure out who's going to write new content. 3 weeks out, you actually start to write the content. 2 weeks out, you publish it, and 1 week out, you promote it, you put money behind it. And so this is a very simple, measurable way to use those predictive forecasts that I was showing you in a small, concentrated way that anyone from the CEO down to the intern can really follow, and everybody's on the same page. Now I'm going to get into the case study. So this is a real case study that we did. We took a look at one of our B2B clients, and we said, you know what? These results are good, but they could be better. So what we did, we took a look at their content, and using that same predictive forecast, same type of predictive forecast that I showed you, the keywords that they cared about, we took the time to optimize their existing content and write new content and time it with what the calendar was telling us that we needed to do. And what we saw was that it drove up users 18% year over year from 2017 to 2018. But it gets better, because it actually resulted in a 285% increase in conversion and a 248 increase in revenue. Those are numbers that you would be very proud to give to your boss, to give to your clients, to say, I had a data-driven plan, I didn't have to think about it, it worked, here's what I did. So it's a very real case study. The next case study is, when in the next 52 weeks will people be reading their email the most, or not at all? So this is an analysis that we've actually done 2 years in a row, looking at when people were likely to be setting their out-of-office settings. People setting out of office means they're going on vacation, they're not reading email. How many people here send emails to their clients or emails to their customers? Majority. So we actually have a nice little surprise for you. We did this analysis for you to take back to your teams, to take back to your bosses. Feel free to share this information, feel free to share it on social media, but please just give us the credit and tag @TrustInsights. So over the next 4 quarters, these are the best weeks and the worst weeks to send email. Now, some of this information you're probably like, okay, I get it. 4th of July week, Christmas week, nobody's around. But what about those other times? What about those other quarters that aren't as clear cut of when you should and should not be sending email? So what we did the past 2 years in a row is we took our 4th of July, the week of the 4th of July, that newsletter, and said, we actually called it in the subject line, the worst performing newsletter of the year. If you get our newsletter, then you would have seen it. And we decided that since it was going to be one of the worst performing newsletters, and we knew that we would actually just truncate the amount of information that we were putting in there, not put as much time and effort into it, but still make sure that we're sending out something that's of value to our customers and our prospects, so that we're keeping up with that brand awareness and we're letting them know, hey, you know what, we get it. This is not a great week for email. So you want to use this information to make sure that you're not sending out product releases, announcements, sales, promos during the worst weeks when people are not likely to be checking their email, and making sure that you're spending the most effort on the best weeks. So predictive analytics is a multi-purpose solution to your everyday marketing challenges. As mentioned, previously in this talk and time again today, you don't have to be a data scientist to start using AI in your marketing. You can start using it today for your content marketing, for your SEO, for your advertising spend, for your shopping trends, for your YouTube. There's a lot of other applications for using predictive analytics, but these are some of the more common and easy ways to introduce them into your agency. So that's it. Thank you for the time today. Thank you for sticking with me throughout the end of the day. I know it's been a long day for some people, but I appreciate it. And again, willtheslides.com. You can find the audio, the video. You can find us on social media @TrustInsights. And that is it.
We have some time for questions if you're open to it.
Excellent.
Your choice.
Yeah. Sure.
Sort of in the flow of this, before you got to the best use cases, you did a quick jump. You said take your data and run it through your SARIMA model. Then you have all these charts. What did you run it through, essentially?
So I don't expect people to just have an SARIMA model laying around. That's not likely to happen. So at this point, you might remember from Chris's keynote this morning, he went through the build or the buy scenarios. A lot of companies don't necessarily have the ability to run a time series forecast, so you can use an outside company to do that for you. The analysis itself is really straightforward. You would need to do your keyword research, those types of things. But if you do want to build it yourself, I would recommend using an open source software called R. You can also use Python, but that's where you would construct the algorithm itself, and then you would reuse it over and over again.
You can also use it in IBM's SPSS modeler.
Anyone else have any questions? I think we're done. Thank you, Katie. Great job.
Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.